Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Falcoholic Live. We're here for our Falcons vs. Seahawks Week 7 postgame show. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic. Kevin, joined by my co-host, he is Alan Strk at Alan Strk. Alan, you got all dressed up. I mean, you're looking good, but unfortunately, the product on the field did not match up with your level of dress today. But other than that, how we doing?
And I was feeling like it was January 2013. Matt Ryan, fake to the left, saw Roddy White going downfield. Richard Sherman 2 steps behind. I was feeling it this morning, so I was like, let me put it on. Falcons Seahawks. Who do you think first when you think of Falcons Seahawks? You think of Roddy White. But unfortunately, yeah, encouraging first half. But just everything that could have went wrong in the second half went wrong. And besides Bijan Robinson, who I want to dedicate like at least 5 minutes to at some point, like because I really think quietly Bijan Robinson might have had his best game as a Falcon. The Packers game last year, maybe the only other one, but God, Bijan was phenomenal. But besides that, not a lot of positives coming out of this game, Kev.
No, this was a rough watch. Yeah, I'm glad I was watching it in the car while I was traveling, because if I had this on the main TV and was like really like intensely focused on it, like I probably would have been a lot more salty. But it's the first half, like you said, not bad. Obviously you hope for more from the defense. There's just the lack of pass rushes is becoming glaring. And this, Seahawks offensive line, they're playing their fourth string right tackle. And Matt Judon did nothing against him the entire game. So that's concerning. There's a lot of concerns in this game. I think that's the main takeaway for me from this is that this basically exposed all your biggest fears about the defense. And the offense, I think the offense just had a really unlucky bad day. Like the offense, I think, had a fluky bad game, and then Kirk tried to play hero ball late, like thinking that he could bring them back, which like that's probably the only way they actually could win this game is if he does hit those bombs like on consecutive drives and they pull off a miracle. So I guess I don't really blame him for trying to unleash the dragon, but didn't work out. One of them obviously Drake London's fault. He throws a bad ball past Kyle Pitts that gets picked off. Yes, the Falcons did have some injuries of their own, and we'll talk about those too. But rough game from the offense. You can probably chalk that up to bad luck to some extent, but the defense, I think this was a red flag game for the defense. Like, oh no, this is what we thought this could look like going into the season. I'm glad it hasn't really looked like that all season, but it's very concerning. It's very concerning, Alan.
Yeah, like where do you begin with the defense? Like I like that you mentioned the defensive line early on because credit to is it Damone Harris?
Damone Harris, 91.
Damone Harris.
Yeah.
He had one rush on the first half, the last drive of the first half that almost got sacked. But then he had that just roughing the passer penalty. When the roughing passer penalty is the worst is when you don't get pressure for 4 seconds and then you just hit the quarterback low. That's what happened to him. And it's just like, oh, come on. And then let's not forget James Smith-Williams got injured, and he was probably – besides him, Grady Jarrett, and maybe 2 Zach Harrison plays. So, by the way, Zach Harrison, once again, every week shows
he needs to play. Yeah.
And he might be forced to play now because who knows what they have at edge, because as we saw, Lorenzo Carr is now in IR. I don't know if they're going to try to make a move for an edge defender, but they don't have a lot of options left on the edge. And I think it was always a weird decision why they made Zach Harrison gain all the weight when he showed more than enough promise last year as an edge defender. So, I don't know. At this point, it's like whoever gets him on the field because, look, let's call it as Matthew John's been a complete disappointment. I think you want to give him time, given coming off a season-ending injury, but there's just no impact there. And this team, given his resume and given much, they traded their round pick for him, it's hugely disappointing. And even Onyemata was quiet. Yep. It's just I think it really does start that front because look, we could get into AJ Terrell, we could get into the scheme because like. I definitely want to talk about that touchdown the first half, just them playing cover 2 there. But there's just, I think it all starts with up front of why this defense is struggling so much.
Yeah, I agree. We'll get into that for sure in just a moment, guys. Real quick, want to bring you a word from our sponsor, Bet Online, folks. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. They've got every stat, matchup breakdowns, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games, like during these 4 o'clock games. I'm sure they're going to have a fresh set of lines for you. Yeah, BetOnline recently redid their website. I think it looks fantastic. I would say it's on par with like FanDuel and DraftKings and all those guys. If you haven't checked it out, definitely give it a look at it. They've put a lot of work into that site. I know they have a new online casino. They've got blackjack, poker, over 150 slots games. They've got the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA. They've even got some political props now. If you're a real gambler, you really want to get DJing with your bets, you can try that out. No matter what you want to bet on, head to that website today. It's betonline.ag to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Make sure when you sign up to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. We appreciate everyone joining us and checking out Bet Online. The game starts here. All right. Yeah, Alan, where do you want to go to first? You want to just go right in on the defense?
Yeah, I think we have to. Just I know some people talk about maybe Kirk Cousins and some of the pre-snap penalties. 4 penalties at home, false start penalties, I should say. Unreal. But I think it just has to start with the defense because it gives the offense no margin for error. And in particular, that final drive in the first half, where it felt like, other than the Harris pass rush where he almost got the sack, it just seemed like every pass Geno completed was uncontested. And this is the big problem. I did a deep dive on the pass defense this past week. Just I wrote like a feature on it. Falcons are allowing 73% passes to be complete, which is a league high. Now, they're only allowing, before this game, 6.3 yards per attempt, which I think was tied for third with Minnesota. So you could tell this scheme they're trying to protect prevent the big play.
Yeah.
Big plays weren't being prevented today. So now it's just and let's also call how we see it. They've got a few favorable matchups, like Philadelphia, no A.J. Brown. The Chiefs' offense is pretty much, they don't really produce big plays anymore. So I think this 3-game stretch coming up with Seattle now, happy to say, Tampa Bay, and Dallas, we're really going to see the secondary get tested. And ironically, Mike Hughes held up really well. D. Alford played well. From what I saw, D. Alford made a couple plays. It really was A.J. Terrell, the linebackers at position, and maybe some of the safety play as well. Just, it's hard to gauge just from first watching, but it seemed like maybe the safeties could have played better. But that's the most eye-opening thing, is just how easily passes are being complete. Because going into this game, the Falcons only have 18 pass breakups all year. Definitely 18 pass breakups in 6 games when the majority of your games are competitive, I think is a huge red flag. And Geno, who's we know has been playing such a high level this year, you're just giving him a high percentage look after high percentage look. He's going to feast, and he had a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate this scheme so much. I don't know what to say. It was sort of working to start the season, so it's okay, maybe they're gonna roll some more stuff out. I mean, I don't blame them for being conservative starting out the season, right? Because it's a brand new scheme, new personnel, a lot of guys trying to mix into something new. So I think it was always reasonable to expect them to start conservatively. And I just lost my camera again. Okay, for no reason, but that's okay. They can still hear me. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll keep working on my camera, folks. But for now, you get to look at my Elgato background. Cool. Anyway, start off conservatively is fine, but you can't keep doing it. We just can't.
We're in game 7.
We're in game 7. You got to start playing. We got to start doing something. You have too many good players in that secondary to have this defense be so passive. They're playing like they have nobody, and they just want to limit the damage. And if you're not going to pressure the quarterback, you have to contest throws, and they're just not. They're refusing to. The scheme backs everyone up so far that there's almost no way for the corners to even have an opportunity to get hands on these footballs unless they just break on a route. And it's do you really want your corners trying to break on all these routes and then give up a big play? I mean, it's in order to get takeaways in this scheme, they have to go rogue or and we've seen Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons do that a couple times, correctly, but it's just a very frustrating watch, and it has been for several weeks. And I think we're seeing it. There's no really good reason to be this conservative, I think, with this personnel anymore.
Yeah, because we know it's me shift because Ryan Nielsen plays a lot of cover one, heavy man. They pressed last year. So now they're playing such heavy zone. It was always going to be adjustment. And I think Ryan Nielsen's coverage just hid the linebackers in a way because we know Nate Landman's limited. So is Caden Ellis. And you saw that touchdown. Nate Landman was downfield 20 yards, and he was just running around no man's land.
Yeah.
And I looking back on that touchdown, because I really do think that touchdown at the end of the half changed the game completely. I think even though Drake London did score to start the second half, I just thought, that touchdown just sucked the life out of everything. And you put that more on scheme or you put it on Terrell? Because that seemed like a big discussion.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly have to rewatch it. The coverage stuff it's really hard to judge it fully live without the all 22.
Yeah.
I blame Terrell in the moment, but I think he expected safety help, and I think he was right to expect safety help. But also wish he wouldn't have given up that much separation anyway, because now you're depending on a safety to get there to keep that from being a touchdown. And DK Metcalf, like, he's gonna get his. Like, DK is just really damn good. I mean, we know that. Like, the one play a lot of people were complaining about, like, Terrell was like several yards behind DK and it looked like DK was wide open, but no, like that ball was extremely overthrown and Terrell was actually in the right place to pick it off. DK just leapt 7 feet in the air to get a hand on it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like, well, I mean, Terrell was in the right position. If he's standing in front of DK, like, he would have had no chance whatsoever at that ball. At least from behind, he was in position to intercept it. So I don't think that was his problem, but it's like, I think this is a situation where Terrell isn't playing super well, but we saw last year when he played his best football, he's in like, he's just a better man corner. We just know this. So I part of me is like, why are we giving him a huge contract to have him play zone, like exclusively zone? Like, teams do all kinds of stuff now. If you have a great corner, a lot of times you'll let him play man match or something on one side and you play zone the other side, or whatever. You get your guy in man on their top receiver and whatever it takes. I just don't think Terrell gives you. I think Terrell is good in zone, but I don't think he's 20 plus million in zone. I mean, I think in man he looked like he was worth it, but um, I don't think Terrell has been as bad as people are kind of saying. I mean, I think honestly he had a couple really good plays on DK in this game, like that kept this from becoming a total blowout. But teams aren't afraid to test Terrell in zone. Like, he's playing so far off, I don't think they're worried about him getting hands on the football. So it's just not really playing to his strengths. Then I think I think D. Alford has really warmed up to the new scheme. I think he's really getting there now, which is nice. Mike Hughes has been great, and like, I love what we've seen from Clark Phillips for the most part. But like, it's hard to take Mike Hughes off the field because he's been playing so well. So, like, it's nothing against Mike
Tyler
Hughes.
Lockett was probably one of the 4 great
Yeah.
plays that didn't involve Bijan Robinson. Like, he
Yeah.
played, because Tyler Lockett ran a really nice double move. Tyler Lockett gets corners on a double move. Mike Hughes stayed composed. I love how he used body to shield off Lockett. And Lockett's good at making contested catches, and Hughes made hell of a stop. So, look, man, he's definitely earned every rep. I want to mention about Terrell because this was a common critique with Raheem Morris's Rams defense, especially with Jalen Ramsey, that Rams fans were constantly getting aggravated with Morris constantly playing zone. Like, in crunch time, he wouldn't have Ramsey shadow opposing number 1 receivers, and say a guy like Mike Evans would. I remember it was that Rams-Bucks game a few years ago when the Bucks were kind of teetering, but the Rams were also teetering, and someone had to win. It was like an ugly game, and Brady ended up like with a last-second comeback, and basically he had Ramsey just stuck in zone, and Rams fans were pretty much fed up with Raheem Morris. So I just wonder, he seems like a very transparent, open-minded coach. I just wonder at some point are the adjustments could be made, because the thing is, this defense doesn't have an Aaron Donald. Nobody ever did. But they only have like a Von Miller, or I'm not even sure if they have a Leonard Floyd. So it's just, what are you going to do coverage to, schematically make changes, just because it's clearly not working. Like, we saw Tampa Bay have plenty of success, and, they got to play Tampa coming up. But today really should be an eye-opener that when you're up against top-level quarterbacks like a Geno Smith, they're going to play Dak Prescott soon. And Baker Mayfield's high variance, but we know when Baker's on, Baker's on.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the time where it could be a big reality check, and today could prove to be one.
Yeah. No, I think this is a huge reality check game. I think this is like we need to sort of circle the wagons and figure out what we need to change. Because this, I think, exposed all the problems with this defense that haven't necessarily hurt the team until now. Like, I think they could have easily lost many, many games, like, with this defense, but they've gotten those really fortunate turnovers. They were doing the right things to close it out, and like, great. But I'm really questioning the decision making behind. Like, I know Ryan Nielsen, like, it seemed like he wanted to leave, right? So, you get that, you let him go. They let him go with coaching change. I mean, I get it. But like, I don't know why they didn't just do that. It's like, well, Ryan Nielsen got really good play out of worse talent. We've seen how these guys look in this. No, we're gonna change everything. We're gonna change the entire scheme. We're gonna change the way the front plays. We're gonna change the coverage. We're gonna do a wholesale change. My camera went out again. Okay. But it just it doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm I just don't really get that. Like, if it worked, then that's great. And it's like, oh, that's bold, okay, but it's not really working.
You know what's even more fascinating? And look, obviously drastic levels here, but when Raheem Morris replaced Brandon Staley, and I don't want to compare Brandon Staley's success with the Rams to what Ryan Nielsen with the Falcons, because that 2020 Rams defense was historically good. But when Morris joined the Rams in 2021, they basically told him, Brandon Staley coming from that Vic Fangio background, basically take what Brandon Staley built, put you a little bit of a spin on it, but ultimately we're not going to get away from playing that too high that Vic Fangio then Brandon Staley utilized. So Raheem Morris has a history. Let's not forget he has a very diverse background. Coming up from Monty Kiffin, then he learned under Jim Haslett. So it was like cover 2 and then heavy blitzing, then cover 3 with Dan Quinn. Even though I know he had several years on the offensive side of the ball, but he still learned a lot with Dan Quinn. And at one point he was handling defensive play call responsibilities in 2019. So Raheem Morris has a very diverse background. So just seeing the Falcons' success last year, now look, it's not, they didn't play at a historic level like Brandon Staley's 2020 Rams defense. I'm well aware of this, but I'm just saying there is history of Raheem Morris taking the defensive scheme and putting his own little spin on it, but taking that foundation and sticking with it. This has been a complete overhaul in a way. Maybe not personnel wise, but just schematically. Like they are playing zone at a very high rate and they're blitzing a lot more. The Falcons, they didn't blitz as much last year, maybe at certain points, and to me, the blitzes are not effective. And when they run simulated pressures, it looks very discombobulated. Like I don't see much of a plan there. So it's just they're relying on like individual moments at this point, and they don't have that talent. Like the Rams defense kind of got away with it just because they had Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, of course, and a couple other players like Ernest Jones. This defense doesn't quite have that. They got star power, but star power can only take you so far where you're not forcing turnovers and you're going against the offense as potent as Seattle. And I don't know if the chat, and Kevin, you could let me know, but it's just based on Twitter. I don't think people realize, like, I know they're coming up with 3-game losing streak, but the Seahawks are very talented.
Yeah.
Like, I got a lot of people telling me the Seahawks team's trash. They're not good. This is such an embarrassing loss. I'm like, look, I know they're on a 3-game losing streak and they've beaten up lots of bad teams, but personnel-wise, this Seattle team is dangerous. And I think you saw them at their full peak today.
Yeah, their offense is really good. Like, and Geno is probably one of the only quarterbacks that can survive behind that offensive line. And you saw it today, like he realized the Falcons couldn't get to him and he had zero fear of it and just absolutely let it go. Like he just would extend the plays for, and quarterbacks are going to start doing that when the defense is this bad. But yeah, I mean, the Seahawks are good and they got back their entire defensive line this week too. Like they had Byron Murphy out. They had Leonard Williams hurt. They had Boye Mafe was out. Like they got ravaged after their kind of win streak. They were missing guys for multiple weeks. That they got their guys back at the right time, and the Falcons lost two offensive linemen for a period of this game. Bergeron's out with a neck injury. That is extremely concerning. That is absolutely flashing red light concerning. So certainly hope it's nothing serious. Obviously he was able to walk around under his own power and but it's not a concussion. So, that makes me very scared, but, Seattle's not a bad team. Like, they had some difficulties.
Flaws, but this is a dangerous team.
This offense especially. And that's the thing. Like, they went up the last several weeks against teams that could rush the passer. Like the Giants only do one thing well, and that's rush the passer. and that's how they got them. Like, I mean, it's like if you can rush the passer, the Seahawks really can't do a whole lot because they just can't get the playoff. But if you can't rush the passer, they're going to obliterate you. And that's exactly what we saw. And that's why, I mean, the defense as a whole, it's like I don't know. What do you think? Like, I feel like this cover 3 style, like, is probably the worst coverage to run with no pass rush. Like, I just feel like it is so like reliant on getting pressure that I kind of don't get why this was the choice. Like, knowing full well that like you don't really have much at edge rusher. I guess, I mean, we all expected the interior would be better, so maybe they thought the interior would just carry it, but schematically, I'm not sure that this is sustainable at all given how little pass rush they're generating.
Yeah, I think they overvalued the talent as much as we all love Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett's still aging and coming off torn ACL. He's played better in recent weeks, but I thought Onyema was a total non-factor. Taquan Graham seemed to get a lot of snaps, but he didn't do much. Eddie Goldman. I mean, there shouldn't have been much expectation of Eddie Goldman. He's been out of the league for 4 years. So
yeah, I feel fine with what we've gotten from Eddie Goldman personally. Like,
yeah,
but I mean that's about it.
I'm just going through the line right now. But to me, like,
yeah.
Zach Harrison obviously should be playing more. I thought Epic Kenny showed some flashes.
Yeah.
He unfortunately just hasn't had that moment yet. Like the touchdown of Kenneth Walker, his get off, he absolutely blows by that right tackle. But Geno's just slide in the pocket. Like Geno's so good at navigating through a pocket and hit Kenneth Walker right in stride, who was isolated against Caden Ellis. So once again, Seattle just making great plays at the right time. But Epic Kenny, I think we'll see something from him at some point because I think we've seen enough flashes this year where it's just like, okay, he's almost getting there. Look, we wish there was more than flashes, but we got to take what we get at this point. And given the injuries across the edge rusher position, I assume Epic Kenny's going to get 35 to 40 snaps a game now. I think the real issue is just Judon, the fact that they relied so heavily on him, and there's just no juice there.
He is a complete non-factor. He's bad against the run too. I think he might be washed. Yeah.
He'll draw a holding flag. Like, James Smith-Williams gets a TFL every week. Matthew John's going to draw a hold every week. Some people say it's because of the red sleeves. Yeah, some of the holes do look blatant, but it's just this a guy that's had multiple double-digit sack seasons. Like at one point when he was on the Patriots, like he looked like a defensive player of the year candidate.
Yep.
And now it's just like
he provides.
Is he Vic Beasley? Like he just. Yeah. It's just those sleeves. It's just there's nothing there. There's no juice. That's the problem, man. It's like if you can't get going at Seattle, because we watched the Lions game. I mean, two of the last 3 games they've been on primetime. They played San Francisco, and it's just you see teams getting home against them. And the fact that the Falcons had their moments today, but it's just the fact that Judon was a total non-factor. Just you gotta take your loss with. You hope he plays better, but the idea of counting on him. Look, I don't know what this team could do for the trade deadline. I think that's asking for a lot to the first team to get an edge rusher, but they may be forced into making a move given we all know Smith-Williams' injury and Lorenzo Carr is going to be out for at least the next 3 games. And it's not like he was adding much to the rotation either.
No. Like Damone Harris, had more flashes than I think I've seen from Lorenzo Carter all season. So maybe we got something there. I don't know. But, D'Angelo Malone, I guess we'll probably end up seeing him. We need to see Zach Harrison playing edge. He needs to cut weight,
it's like an MMA fighter. You got cut.
I'm gonna need you to cut. Yep. Yeah.
Also, want to mention the defense. It's only been a few weeks now, but Nate Landman looks noticeably sluggish. Like you saw that touchdown run, just not really moving. Like, look, he was so good last year, so I want to give him time. I thought he was really good against the Steelers on opening day. But is he another one of those players, kind of like Onyemata, where his play is dipped, and even Caden Ellis as well, where guys that were kind of the foundation of what made that Falcons defense so enjoyable to watch last year. Are you concerned that his play is really declined, or you want to give him more time?
I think he's hurt. I think he would not be starting if Anderson was healthy. I don't think he's healthy. He's clearly not healthy. So, I mean, he needs more time, but they can't wait. Like, they need him right now. I mean, at this point, it's like maybe Bertrand gives you a little. I mean, Bertrand's going to give you more juice, but it's not like Bertrand was playing great football either. So, I mean, I think it's a problem that Landman looks really slow and is almost certainly injured. But who knows when we're going to get Troy Anderson back at this point? I don't even think he's practiced. So, did he get in a limited towards the end of this week or anything, or did he just DMP straight out? I forget.
I think he was DMP straight out, but I can't confirm.
Yeah,
so
we'll
check that.
But they just don't really have anyone else to go to. And they were really, I think, depending on Landman to, I think, be their main run stuffer. But at this point, it's just not. It's not going very well. Ellis is not playing well. The only one who was Troy Anderson, and he got hurt on special teams, Alan. On special teams. So
after the best game of his career too.
Yep.
Did you see our guy Trayshawn Diaz? He posted the Falcons have, I think, played the 7th most lightest boxes this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also could have been, just proven to be an issue. But you just don't see the penetration. You don't see him taking double teams as well. It's just the things that we saw last year. It's not been really replicated.
Yeah. No, it's been rough. And so Anderson did get any limited practice on Friday. That was the first time he's practiced since the injury. So maybe there's some hope we can get him back this week. I think they kind of desperately need juice at linebacker. They just don't have any.
Yeah,
And then
that's.
maybe,
I mean, their offense. They're
yeah,
so well coached too. I don't know if Liam Cohen's an upgrade over Dave Canales, but they're neck and neck. Like Liam Cohen's doing a fantastic job there. The Bucks, they got a lot of playmakers. Like you see Chris Godwin. You can watch tomorrow night. He's just eating in the middle of the field. So yeah, they definitely use Troy Anderson because we saw the touchdown. Like poor Nate Landman's like 20 yards downfield, and he's just like running a circle. And you just tell he is so slow. And just like, oh man, I didn't think they would be so dependent on Troy Anderson, but I think with this scheme, it goes to show you how valuable the skill set is.
yeah, it is. So it's like, yeah, they need Troy Anderson back really bad, and I think they're gonna have to make scheme changes. I don't think they can keep doing this. Like I don't think it's gonna be successful. You know, they've the fact that they've won a bunch of games at the last second, I think like people need to pay more attention to that. Like obviously the defense has been playing better in the second half, but a lot of that's the timely turnovers and all this stuff, and um, it's not. It's concerning to me. I think the defense has been concerning for the last 3 weeks, basically. And it's not really improving at all. We keep being like, well, they're playing a bad offensive line. Here, maybe they'll get the pass rush together, and then they don't. And then they're playing a worse offensive line. Maybe they'll get the pass rush together, and then they don't. And it's like, well, they're playing the worst offensive line in the NFL. Maybe they get the pass rush together. No. So I don't think they're going to be able to rush the passer, period, this year.
Can I
So
stop
they
the
have
run?
they're going to have to make some changes to try to stuff the run at least,
Yeah.
which they're not. I think today was better on that front, honestly. They did stuff the run better, and they faced a lot of carries. So I mean, I think they did a better job with that. But maybe they can start improving there more. But now James Smith-Williams is hurt, and I think they were utterly with the way they approached this offseason, choosing a quarterback over a pass rusher in the top 10. They were going to be dependent on these guys like not regressing, and they were going to be dependent on getting another big addition like a Judon. And like, to be fair, I think Judon was the right call of all the guys that were reasonably available. I
Yeah.
think he was the best option. I don't think anyone. I think maybe the Patriots knew he was washed. I mean, I don't know. I think the Falcons figured it out too because they did not offer him an extension, and he didn't make a stink about not getting one. So I'm wondering, I'm wondering if everyone knew that he was maybe not looking so hot, and he was like, oh, "I think I can come back," and they were like, "Yeah, we'll give it a try." But the fact that he wasn't at all upset about not getting an extension to me is starting to look a little sus.
I think he just wanted to get out of New England too.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I don't blame him. Yeah.
Look, I was 100% on the Judon move. I thought it was going to be a difference maker. I'll put my hand up there. Let's just see what happens with Hassan Reddick. If Hassan Reddick comes out and like gets like 4 sacks in the first 3 games, it's like, all right, we were wrong. Because I actually prefer Judon over Reddick because I know Reddick was available. Just because I think Judon, like peak Judon, I think is more consistent than Reddick. I think Reddick's more of a flash player, especially as a pass rusher. As I hope someone didn't just get in the car accident nearby me. Sorry about that. But sorry, huge screech just happened.
Oh,
but Hassan Reddick, I don't know. Like I think he benefited being on that stacked Eagles defensive line, while Judon was more. I thought he was like really like he didn't carry the Patriots pass rush, but you could tell he was the focal point. While with Philadelphia, you had Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave. So that's why I like Hassan Reddick. And look, the Falcons, the any edge rusher who has some sort of ability. Don't get me wrong, but like, I was fully on board with getting Judon over Reddick. Would you agree?
Yeah. Judon was not going to play without an extension, and I don't really think the Falcons wanted to extend either of them. I think they were looking for a 1-year rental, and they're hoping to, get someone in the draft or make some more moves to get another guy that's more of a long-term fix. But yeah, I wasn't really that. I thought they needed a guy that could play the run too, and they clearly do. Hassan Reddick doesn't play the run. Right. He's like basically Arnold Ebiketie, but better as a pass rusher.
I know you want to go back to last year. You want Montez Sweat. I know you're a big Montez Sweat guy.
God, man.
I wish the organization
they've gotten Montez Sweat.
They listen to the show.
Yeah, they tried, apparently.
That's true.
And the Bears just outbid them because they had the higher pick. So, yeah, I mean, that would have been perfect. Absolutely perfect. I think that's why they went for it. But they weren't willing to give up, a first rounder for Sweat or like a second and a third, which is what it would have taken. So, that would have been an overpay. Would it have been the right call? I mean, maybe considering how badly they use these day 2 picks. But, A third for Judon was absolutely reasonable, especially considering we didn't have to extend him. But sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes guys get hurt. Sometimes they just fall off. I mean, just bad luck. I mean, I think that's bad luck. I think that was the right call. I think everyone loved it. Like, everyone loved it. I'm not going to drag Terry because Judon's disappointing. It was the right call. We can drag Terry for other things that maybe weren't the best calls. That was not one of the decisions I think we should criticize. But yeah, something's got to change on this defense. We can't keep doing this. This is not going to work. I don't know exactly what it is. That's why I just talk about it on the internet. We're going to let the guys, who make the money, they can figure it out. I won't, be too prognosticating here and be like, well, they should do X, Y, Z. Like, I don't know exactly what they should do. I think it's a complicated issue. I'm sure it is. But they got to make some kind of changes, and they're probably going to have to make another trade for an edge rusher. I don't really see that they can't really leave it. So, in positive news, Jace McClellan, those last couple runs, that was pretty nice.
I'm waiting for Penix though. Do you want to talk about the offense, or you want to do some listener questions? I feel like we haven't.
Yeah, let me grab. I know we had some donos. Thank you guys.
Then we'll get to the offense.
Yes, we got Rise Up RXNs. What's up, man? With the $2, thank you. He says, "Well, that sucked. Let's go Ravens." Yeah.
Great summary.
Yeah, good. That was probably We don't even. Why are we here for 45 minutes? But we got Adrian Russ with the $2. He says we did play a complete game today, completely inconsistent on both sides. I feel like the defense did get some bad calls on third downs. Yeah, I mean it was very unlucky. Is it safe to say that AJ Terrell is regressing? I feel like the pass rush was better, but negated by flags. I do feel like they got the most pressure that they've gotten in many, many weeks this week.
Does it really say much? That's the thing.
But it was very inconsistent. Like, watch the Seahawks-Giants game, and you'll see what a pass rush really can do to this offensive line, which is probably worse now than it was against them. So, they should be dominating this line. And Geno just escaped a couple times, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he's probably one of the only quarterbacks that can survive. AJ Terrell is regressing, but I'm not sure it's anything to do with talent or ability. I think he's just not a good fit in this scheme. And we saw it before. It was kind of I don't know. He's not bad in it. He's gonna have some good games and some bad games, but I think we saw when he gets to play more man, I think he has his best games. And they really just kind of were we're gonna throw this man scheme in the trash. Even though we were really good at it last year. I mean, I know the last two games they were not very good at it, but I think I would take the 15-game sample over the 2, but I mean, whatever. And then we got one more from Chris24M. He says, wait, the Falcons had 40 sacks last year? That surprised me. Yeah. And it's the same personnel. I mean, I would say it's even better personnel, and they're probably in line to finish under 20. I guess we'll see. They did get 2 more today, so yeah.
Calais Campbell, please come back.
Yep.
But yeah, it's hard to. I'm thinking with Terrell because bigger receivers do tend to give him problems. We know, especially with Mike Evans, but that defensive pass interference is pretty frustrating just because he was making contact with Metcalf before the ball arrived, but he was pushing him out. Near the sidelines, it's the ball hadn't arrived yet, and he just gets not even grabby. They're just too overzealous. That's the problem sometimes. He feels like against receivers that kind of want to go out of emotion, because we know DK Metcalf's a very emotional player, and he'll get into it for us. And I think Terrell just needs to be a little bit more composed there. But I don't think anything is falling off a cliff with his play. It's just kind of like last year. Those big moments show up, and it comes at the worst possible times. And I know the way he's being paid, he needs to step up his game, which I absolutely agree with. If next 2 weeks, whether it's Evans, Godwin, or CD Lamb, he's better be ready for it. But I'm not willing to say he's necessarily falling off a cliff to the point where he's getting targeted 7 to 8 times a game and he's allowing 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, if you go watch this game, Terrell had some really good plays in this game. I mean, yeah, that's the nature of corner too. This is the position where you're even good corners are probably giving up touchdowns, especially corner ones, because you're going up against their best receiver. And there's a lot of really good receivers in the NFL. And the NFL is very favorable to those receivers most of the time. So, he's getting hung out to dry by this pass rush too. I mean,
that's a big thing too.
There really aren't a lot of throwaways being forced. He's getting just bombed. And a lot of times he's got one-on-one. with these number one receivers. And if you give a quarterback that much time to just bomb it out, I'm not sure Sauce Gardner, Sauce Gardner's a better corner. I don't think anyone's arguing that, but he's going to give up plays too. And if there's no pressure in front of him, it's just, they, they chose not to address the pass rush until before the end of camp with Judon. And while I think we all agree that was a great move in hindsight, and that was, something that we thought would help with the problems, it's not helping the problems. And I think that might just be the Achilles heel of this defense, unless they could pull off some kind of big trade deadline move. Everyone's floating Max Crosby and stuff. I don't really see why I would trade him if I was the Raiders, but Hassan Reddick's not coming to the NFC. Did you hear that they have to send the Eagles a second round pick if he gets traded to the NFC?
Wow, that's a clause.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, I've never heard of this before. But yeah, so he's not coming to the NFC.
I think they'll be forced to get a Josh Uche, which I don't think would be a bad move, but it's I'm not sure how much expect Josh Uche to make a difference, but he could be a contributor.
Yeah, if you could trade a fourth for someone that's relatively young, role player type, that's maybe someone that's a fringe starter or better would be nice. Someone that's a pass rush specialist. I like Uche. He's not going to be a double-digit sack guy, but you need guys like Uche. They just don't have anything. They have Ebiketie, but I feel like Ebiketie needs another guy. He's not a guy that's going to create the pressure and get the sack himself. I think he's creating pressure now. I think he's looking like this could be, at this point, I think he's a legit DPR type guy, which is nice. That's not exactly what you want from a second rounder, but if Judon was playing like Judon, I think he'd be getting sacks. It's just no one else is getting pressure, so he gets pressure, and then the quarterback just steps up or runs away, and it's shit.
I do want to mention, especially after their performance today, Ojulari from the Giants will probably be available. His name's been flying around, and given how disaster state of affair the Giants, and Ojulari is playing really well. I watched that Sunday night game against the Bengals. He was tearing things up, so maybe that could be a move. But let's also take into account the Lions are going to need a pass rusher, and I think pass rushers are going to look at the Lions as way more of an attractive team to go to than the Falcons. So the Falcons, if they're really going to have to pull off a move, they better be ready to give up some draft capital because there's going to be competition out there.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to pay. That's how it is. But You're betting that they put all their chips in on Penix as being the future at quarterback, and we're not going to be able to evaluate that for at least another season, I imagine. So until then, it's this is the price you pay. You didn't get that starting pass rusher that you really needed. You didn't, address other stuff. You had to kind of do this future-focused stuff. Now, I think we could talk about the fact that they, traded for all these interior guys that aren't even playing because they have so many interior guys right now. We've talked about
on the roster anymore.
Yeah. It's you drafted 3 DTs, one of which you cut before the end of camp and tried to stash and got stolen immediately. And then your 4th round pick can't even be active because you have 9 interior guys active on game day and he's not one of them. And obviously Braylon Trace gets hurt. I think that you can't do anything about that. That's not the GM's fault. That's so that was nice, but it's you traded away your other day 2 pick to go up and get Rook, who I think Rook is something. I think we can see that he is something. He's young and very inexperienced as a pass rusher, but I think Rook is a guy that they're going to really need going forward because at this point, and this will be the last thought of the defense for now, because I know we want to talk about the offense a bit. At this point, I think they're cutting both Onyemata and Jarrett next year. The savings is massive, and they need the cash. So I was I think we all knew that they were gonna have to say goodbye to one of them, with the cap situation the way it is. But I wasn't really expecting both. But now it's I don't think you can justify paying either of these guys $12+ million. I think Grady's making 16. So
yeah, given the production, and look, maybe one of them could accept the pay cut, but look, we're not going to expect an athlete to take a pay cut. If Jared, given his loyalty to the organization, would do it, then see what it is. But their production definitely isn't going to justify that amount. So yeah, it's going to be a dark day if that happens, though.
Yeah, I don't think Grady is washed. For the record, I never said he was washed.
He's playing better.
Yeah, I think he's probably playing the best of anyone we have in there. I don't think you can justify like 16 million for that anymore when you're going to be up against the cap. So, you know, I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's bad this year even. I just think he's kind of looking like an average starter right now, which given his age and the fact he's coming off an ACL tear, like that's not bad to me. It's just the cost is extremely high, and I'm not sure people realize, but like the Falcons are in cap trouble next year. Not like Saints level cap trouble. Like you can navigate it, but you're gonna have to make some difficult cuts to get through it. And obviously, we're gonna save that for the offseason because hopefully we won't have to talk about that until mid to late January. But
I've been waiting for a Saints mention, given the festivities that took place on Thursday night.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, we got one more question here. We got Web Fiji with the $10. Thank you. Says, okay, serious question. Are we actually bad, like worse than last year? We got the 3 fluky wins and the Panthers almost had us. Was this the easy run of games? The answer is no. They're not bad. They're not worse than last year. They're far better than last year. The defense isn't as good as last year, but the offense is miles ahead of. Like, the offense last year didn't have a single game that resembled either of the last 2 weeks. This offense, like today, put up like what, almost 400, and turned the ball over 3 times. Like, I mean, this offense today, like they were inches away from getting back in this game. I think, like, and this is a good segue into the offense too. But I mean, what do you think? Are you thinking they're bad, Alan? Or
no, they just missed out on a couple opportunities. Like I kind of remind me of the Saints and the Chiefs games where like Cousins, for instance, missed Ray McLeod, which should have been like a 30-yard completion.
Yeah, wide open. If you're gonna throw that on 3rd and 7 in field goal range, I need you to like hit that, Kirk. Like I need you to hit that.
He was protected well.
Yeah,
and it's just Devon Witherspoon slipped, and it's just like, oh, that was one of those opportunities. But then you have 4 false start penalties. That's hard to recover from that. So it's just those moments there. But like, other than a few games this year, like this running game, like, they did whatever they wanted on the ground. And we'll dedicate that in this show to Bijan Robinson because, man, I was totally blown away by Bijan. But now the offense was moving the ball, and even though Drake London didn't have a big impact until the second half, like he still made his presence felt. Kyle Pitts, I don't know. Was this his most catches since like
7 catches, right? Yeah,
like, he was heavily involved. That wasn't like a big impact, but he was just that safety valve. So at least that was good.
I loved the routes there. Yeah, I love the routes they were calling for him. It was more like intermediate stuff. Like he was getting open. Like I saw him. He tried. He was blocking his ass off too. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like all great blocks, but like he was definitely. I mean, he was giving full effort. I mean, no question there.
Right.
So
I think he's acclimating better. So overall, I think the offense played well. It's just ultimately like some self-inflicted mistakes. But if there's one thing, and this is something I think they're going to have to come to terms with, is that anytime the pocket collapses, the play's going to be done.
Yeah,
like Kirk just he's the complete inability to escape the pocket. 95% of the quarterback's lead would get out of the pressure that Kirk faced today. The offensive line played perfectly fine for me today. It's just there was a couple of moments where he monkey point from a negative standpoint about the offense. It's just we saw Kirk Cousins' limitations just when it comes to his mobility.
Yeah, exactly. Like we can't, I that's gonna be the problem with Kirk this year. Like that's the limitations that you have to accept with Kirk Cousins. And maybe he'll get a little bit better as time goes on. He's still recovering, but he just can't get out at all. And that's a problem. It's going to kill drives, because he's going to take sacks. But this week in particular, I think he could have thrown balls away and just didn't. He took sacks that he didn't need to take this week. He really started to play hero ball like after halftime, and it was just so unnecessary. It's like you're really dumb and give up that touchdown right before the half, which that was horrible scheme. I know I don't know if we'd actually talked about that play. Do you want to talk about that final drive before the half?
Oh, I thought we did.
Did we? Okay, I want to make sure.
Landon and Terrell.
Yes. Okay. Yes, you did. I want to make sure we got to it. Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that's not the first time they've completely crumbled at the end of the first half. The George Pickens play on opening day. That's another one. So look, 2-minute situations could really determine how a game goes, and we saw what the consequences of it when you're not organized. So to me, it's just that's another thing they have to address. So we did talk about that, but offensively, like the only negative I could really say is just like you mentioned, when Kirk Cousins feels pressured, where he feels like he needs to just make every throw. And I thought he handled the blitz pretty well. There was a couple of moments, like there was one where he hit Pitts on a nice little crosser. And the running backs do a fantastic job picking up blitzes. So like it's weird. Like I don't have much complaints with all of this other than it's just the penalties really added up, and just Cousins. And you saw against Tampa Bay, even at his best, like the Falcons still a lot of forced sacks in that game. And I thought like 3 of them were mostly just because Cousins could not escape the pocket. And when the pocket collapses, he's going to go down too.
Yeah, it's just, that's unfortunate. That's just the way it's going to be with him. But like they've been able to survive it kind of until now. Sad. But it's like, you're just going to have to work around that. Because Cousins can absolutely deal like when he's protected. And we've seen it. Like he's capable of making all the throws. It's just this week, like he was really just off on a lot of throws and really started pushing, really started pressing towards the end, and that you can't have that. Like I think they did have a chance to come back. They put together multiple promising drives and just pissed the ball away every single time. Like I think they could have had 3 touchdown drives that they had turnovers on. Now the one where he got sacked and fumbled, I think that was his fault for sure. Like they probably aren't scoring on that drive, but the other two picks, they were marching both times, and it's like one of them is Drake London's fault, 100%.
Absolutely.
So that was not Cousins' fault, for the record, in case anyone was questioning that. But I mean, that one to Pitts was awful. I mean, just even Pitts couldn't get his hand on it. Like he tried, and it wasn't even close. So, and then you missed the wide open Ray McLeod, which would have kept a drive alive and put you in scoring position. Like this defense, if this defense continues to play like this, they can't afford to have any games like this because they'll lose every one. Like you're gonna have to shoot out, especially a team like I was expecting this to be a shootout because it's like. See, we match up really bad against them. The only way to slow this offense down has been to get pressure. They don't get pressure. So we're probably going to have to win a shootout. And unfortunately, you come out, you're sloppy with the turnovers. You have to put a backup left guard in. I thought Hinton didn't play alarmingly bad or anything, so that's nice. We even saw Matt Hennessy for a couple snaps. The Matt Hennessy reunion.
Great block, man, on the touchdown. Yeah. He sealed off that, I think it was Byron Murphy. Hey, Matt Hennessy. Go back to 2021. Yeah. Wasn't the worst part of blocker. It's just he was on the ground way too often.
Yeah. I'm here for the Matt Hennessy reunion. Like, if he does stick around for a little bit, it's just nice to see him.
Dolman's off IR, I think, after this game.
Yeah. Yeah. So that could be positive if he's ready. I don't think he'll be off IR. He could theoretically,
I'm just saying for the 4-game window.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. We don't know. It's possible he could be, because they didn't really say anything about Landman, and he was just like, okay, he's activated. So yeah, so it could be that. But yeah, they've actually assembled, I think, pretty good offensive line depth. Like Storm has had to play and looked fine to good. They've had to play Hinton at both left and right guard, and he's been fine. Newsel, I think, has been mostly fine. He's probably been the shakiest of all the guys, but backup centers, that's a hard job. Hennessy had to come in as the third center. He looked fine. Yeah, I mean, I think they got Elijah Wilkinson too. I wonder if they go to him or give him more opportunities, because I think the last time he was here, like he was actually looking quite good until he got hurt.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if he could be someone that if hopefully Bergeron isn't going to miss significant time, but you wonder if perhaps Elijah Wilkinson gets a shot at left guard in that scenario. But I think that's one of the hardest things to do in the NFL right now is build offensive line depth, and like to their credit, they absolutely have done that. You can never like weather too many offensive line injuries, but I think this team is well equipped to handle a few. And so far so good there. And we'll just hope that they can avoid any more, because you can see, you've seen with the Saints how quickly things can go bad. That team is a dumpster fire now. So yeah,
there you go.
I love it, for the record. But
yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you noticed, like, I felt like, I don't know what his yards per attempt was, but Cousins had to check it down a lot. So I'm curious. We're not going to know until we watch the film, but how much Mike McDonald plays too high. He floods the middle of the field a lot. Like, it's hard to really push the ball against his type of defense. So I'm wondering how much that affect the Falcons passing, because it just seemed like a lot of it was short and intermediate. Like this was the most checkdowns Cousins had thrown in the game, which is good because I think Bijan Robinson needs to be more involved in the passing game. I kind of wish he was more involved as someone that's actually running legitimate routes, not as a checkdown option. But you got to take what you get. But I do wonder how much did that affect Cousins' rhythm or just overall processing, because they didn't seem to be pushing the ball until the game started getting out of hand, and then that's what led to the interceptions.
Yeah, no, I'm curious too. We see Cousins was 20. He was 24 of 35 for 232. So yeah, not a super high yards per attempt. Michael Penix 1 of 1 though, 100%. Right there. Yeah. 14 yards. That was a hell of a catch by Casey Washington. He was like, I'm getting these yards, brother. He was not going to go down. He was like, no, we're going. So good for him. But
whoever was there for training camp must have gave a little small fist pump.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. No, it this is a weird box score, man. I mean, the Falcons outgained Seattle 385 to 339. They had basically the same passing yards. They obviously had Falcons had over 50 more rushing yards. The Falcons were actually 8 of 15 on third down, which is one of their better marks of the year. They're over 50%. They converted 2 fourth downs.
And I don't think they played that in garbage time either. I feel like they were pretty consistent on third downs during the game.
I think so. They were looking better, and they actually won the time of possession battle again. It just didn't matter because they turned the ball over 3 times. And if you turn the ball over 3 times and you don't get any turnovers, you're going to lose 99 times out of 100, no matter what else happens. So, unless it's that one Desmond Ridder win over the Bucs, that's the only time it's not going to.
That was our one. Discrepancy of penalties?
Yeah, it was large. I think it was the Falcons had 9 penalties. 9 penalties for Atlanta, 5 for Seattle. So definitely.
I thought Atlanta's was way more consequential.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they kept literally 3 scoring drives alive on third down with those stupid penalties. So, pretty bad. I mean, that was just, you hate to see it. It was just every time they gave him so many chances. It's like you can't it's like it all came together. Like I think people are probably going to panic about this game. I don't think anyone should panic. I think this is a game where you have to look hard in the mirror at the defensive issues in this. I think the defensive issues are legitimate and need to be corrected. I think the offense just needs to get their shit together. I don't really think you need to change much. How about just don't throw 2 picks and don't fumble, and maybe give the ball to Algier a little bit more. I mean, he has 7.2 yards per carry. I do think the Seahawks were kind of bottling him up more than Bijan, so I think that's why they kind of went with Bijan. I do love that they gave him that one last carry so he could break 100 yards rushing. That was I was like, I see you. They're like, okay, Bijan, we're gonna give you one more if you do it, fine. And then they put Jason immediately after, but that was kind of funny. They wanted me to hit that.
Left a bit too much, which was weird. Especially when Bergeron went out, I think it's a time where Seattle started getting a few stops.
Yeah,
you still want to run it direction of McGarry and Lindstrom, but those counter runs, the gap scheme runs, they were just getting 5-6 yards a pop. It was very reminiscent of last week, but I just thought some of the runs though were pure Bijan. If we just talk about Bijan, there was one where I don't think Matthews got blown up, but it was a toss play to the left, and it didn't seem like there was much movement. Bijan just redirected the run and he picked up 9 yards. And it's just those moments where he's just so shifty, and there's no wasted movement with him. When he's going downhill, oh man, he's so electrifying. And I love the fact that the game started off with him, because I think some people don't get lost with it, but we look at his elusiveness, we look at his explosives, you look at everything, speed, but he has some serious power. And I forgot the defensive back he ran over, but that moment where one-on-one collision, maybe it was Julian Love, and he turned to a 26-yard gain. To me, that's the only real thing Bijan's kind of been missing this year. I think he's been excellent this year. Some people will say, oh, he needs to do more, but I'm just sometimes just Algier, sometimes just the offense. He's still, when he gets the ball more times than not, he's picking up chunk plays. But today, I don't know, man. There were 7 plays that were just good Lord, this guy's amazing.
Yeah. No, and Nico, with the $2 tip, was just asking why did we stop using Algier after the 20-yard dash. I think we just talked about it as you put that in. Thank you for the donation, though, Nico. We do appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, they were kind of bottling up Algier. That big carry really helped his average, because if he didn't have that, he was going to be down probably under 3. But that's the thing with Algier. He can have big plays. He's not going to have explosive runs all the time, but he could have big runs because he just runs people over. I think especially like when you're down, they want Bijan to touch it because he has the chance for a home run. Whereas Algier doesn't really. I mean, he can. It's possible, but a lot of things have to go, like probably 8 things have to go right for Algier to house like a 50-yard run. Bijan just needs the safety to miss or fall, and then it's probably a touchdown. So I think that's why, especially like when the score got really lopsided, they were like, okay, we just need the big play potential. I felt honestly like when they were down 10, I was not really that sweating about it. Like I was like, I think they'd still have enough time. Like they've been moving the ball, they just kind of shot themselves in the foot, and then they just like kept shooting themselves in the foot even more. So I hope they just got all this out of their system this week and we can move forward. But man, it was just like, okay, they turned it over again. Okay, they got another penalty that killed the drive. Okay, like they were moved. They moved the ball better than Seattle, and we're talking about how bad our defense looked. I mean, Seattle's defense was not good. I mean, good on them for catching those picks. It's not going to go.
The worst of Cousins showed up at the worst times. Like, I don't think Cousins had a bad game, but the limitations of Cousins could have came at a worse time. Like once that strip sack happened, I was like, all right, this game is completely unraveled.
Yeah, so that killed the momentum. And then Cousins, like after that, Cousins was like, okay, I got to save the team now. I messed up, and it's like, just play the game. Like you don't have to push. Like I think the offense is well schemed. We see guys coming open all the time. And Cousins for the most part is, I think, like that Ray play. Like I was frustrated in the moment because it's like if you just get a couple more yards, you make it so Coop can kick like a 49-yarder, or you could pick up the first down. But like you watch the replay, it's like, okay, no, the short stuff wasn't open. Ray McLeod's coming open, wide open, should be a routine throw. And he just misses him, and it's like, that's the right read. It's the right throw. Just missed him. You can't really have that in the NFL. Like if you pass up those plays, you pass those up a couple times and it's like, wow, we just threw away 7 points, So, if they don't get this defense fixed, that's the reality, is that we're going to have to win shootouts. Now, the good news is in the NFL, you can win double-digit games with just offense. I mean, look at what the Commanders were doing, right? I mean, the Commanders have, I think, the 32nd defense in EPA, and they were just winning shootouts. You can do that. You're on the knife's edge then. Like, you're living on the knife's edge of 500 or, playoffs. So I'd rather get the defense fixed up so that we don't have to lean on that so much. But, if the offense is good, you'll have a chance in every game. So hopefully they can just get to that, and we can make some nice, maybe, I mean, I'm not asking for too much, but maybe some changes to this defense to get it back to where it needs to be. Let this secondary, like the secondary is the team. Like this off zone, like it doesn't really give them opportunities to make plays. I get why, like you want to be conservative, you want to limit damage, but like we need to give Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates more opportunities to get turnovers. Like we need them desperately. So like I just feel like they're so far out of the play most of the time. It's just the chances of them, unless they just absolutely get a gift given to them or they just really read the play perfectly, it's like they almost just can't even have a chance to get there with some of this stuff.
Yeah. Do you think maybe playing more 3 safeties could be beneficial? I know people are down Richie Grant, but I think
he's been okay. He's been absolutely fine this year.
Yeah. I think it's a better solution than compared to putting a Landman or even Ellison coverage until Troy Anderson is back, because I think one thing, and they're playing right now, the Chiefs do really well, is they know how to hide their linebackers in coverage because they play a lot of dime or even quarters. And it's just, if they could just figure out a way, just because I know Richie Grant's not the best when it comes to matchup 1-on-1, but at least he can cover space. And I just think like that 3rd and 15, going back to the play once again, it's just, could 3 safeties be more beneficial there than just having Nate Landman dropping 15, 20 yards downfield? That's the type of solutions I'm thinking of. So
yeah,
that could be something they could work into, because we know defenses, especially some of the better ones like a Baltimore and Kansas City. I know Baltimore is not quite a level this year, but they're still one of the better units. They have the personnel to play 3 safeties. So I'm thinking until Troy Anderson's 100%, that could be a solution, just because we saw, look, Landman can't cover, and like it was a tough play for Kaden Ellis, but we know he's much more someone that's way more comfortable playing the box. But I'm not going to get too hard on him, allow him to the touchdown on Kenneth Walker. I think that was just a terrific play by Kenneth Walker.
It was fantastic.
Really evolving as a running back. So
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about 3 safety looks?
I think they have to try it. I mean, Landman was never good in coverage before his injury. Like, now he's almost unplayable. He just can't really turn. And that's Caden Ellis was never like Caden Ellis was okay in coverage last year. He's not okay this year. Caden Ellis as a whole has to be one of the bigger disappointments. I think like they have to get him on the edge. I think he's looked good when every time he goes to the edge. I think he makes a play. It's just like at linebacker, he just looks he can't like he's just out of it, man. He's making bad reads. He's like not where he needs to be.
That's a concern because last year there was like a good 6-8 games in a row where he flashed at least 3-4 times against the run. Like he would get a TFL here or a stop for 1 yard. Like there were just moments where you just saw him really imposing as well. You really rarely see that moment this year where he makes like a clean stop for 2 yards and it's just like, wow, okay, he read that perfectly and he made the tackle. It's just that's what's lacking from his game. I think that's most concerning. He's their best weapon as a blitzer, no denying that. And that's what they signed him for last offseason. But the fact that he's not really providing much against the run is huge disappointment because he really was one of their best defensive players last year because of his work against the run.
Yeah, they needed this linebacker room should have been one of the strengths of the defense, and I think Nate Landman looked great week 1. He looked fantastic. I thought he was fine last week. I think maybe a little hyped up by PFF last week. But this week was you could see like if you get him matched up against a fast running back, it's gonna be a completion, probably for big completion. And it's like they just kind of need all 3 of these guys, I think, to make it work. As opposed to, like, I think if Anderson's out, they just have no juice at linebacker right now. And I think this scheme, like, you look at how a lot of teams have deployed this scheme, right? They usually have good linebacker play. Like guys that are athletic. You think of the guys that like Dan Quinn used. Dan Quinn's scheme is not the same as Vic Fangio's scheme, but they do use a lot of athletic linebackers. And I think like Nate Landman is not an athletic linebacker. He's like an old school downhill thumper. And like there's a time and place for that. You need it. The Falcons desperately need it over the last couple of weeks. But with him like having some injuries on top of that, it's like, oh no. And then Caden Ellis really just has had a down year. But like I'm so mad because I feel like Troy Anderson didn't get hurt on that dumb special teams play. Like he was like arriving. It was like, oh, okay, well, it's okay that Ellis is having a down year because Troy Anderson's going to be
they don't beat the Saints without him.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can, come back soon because we need him big time.
We got more listener questions. I'm not sure what much more we get because this game felt one-sided and we don't think the offense played that bad and we addressed the defense a good amount. And we can't really talk too much about the Tampa game because they play tomorrow night. Yeah. So
we'll just wrap it up. I think we've covered it. I don't think we need to keep people here to bemoan this for any longer. Thank you guys.
Anything else going on though? I don't know. Like the listeners want anything else in terms of questions. I feel like we haven't. Or is everyone down right now? They're like, oh.
Everyone's just so depressed. Yeah. But yeah, guys. But we do appreciate all 250-300 of you guys for hanging out. Even though this was a tough one. This defense I think is they need to do something different. I don't think this scheme, as it's currently constructed, is going to work with the personnel the Falcons have. I don't really like cover 3 heavy stuff in general. I just think it's lame, but it can work. We've seen it work a lot in the NFL. It's so boring. I just hate playing off coverage. I don't know. That's just me, but it's just so boring. And you just give up so many free passes. Let the corners like fight, let them get out there. Let them fight, let them have a chance at the ball. The Falcons did it so well last year. I'm mad that, we'll see how this defense develops. I'm not willing to say that it has no chance or anything, but I just wish we could have kept Ryan Nielsen for the continuity, and he clearly had something going here. Obviously, it didn't end super well, but it would have been nice to have the continuity. And nothing against Jimmy Lake necessarily. We'll see how that develops. Don't want to besmirch the man 7 games in, right? We're when the defense kind of held this team together over the first 3 weeks. They need to make some changes, and if they can't, then I think it's you start questioning whether this scheme is a good fit for this personnel. Like, are we really going to bend over backwards and remake the whole team to fit Jimmy Lake's chosen scheme? Or are we going to need to make a change? Or is Jimmy Lake going to need to make a change? And I think that's a possibility too. But this was an ugly defensive game. All that being said, the Falcons did actually outgain the Seahawks and win time of possession. So it's like, again, I think you take those. You can't just take picks off the board, but if you take the picks off the board, the Falcons are probably competing in this game. I mean, they gave them a free TD from the fumble recovery touchdown, and yeah, I mean, probably took at least one touchdown drive off the board with one of those picks. I mean, if Drake catches that, that's a huge play, and they're down at like the 30 of the Seahawks. So, I think the offense I'm not super concerned about still. I think the offense is still on the upswing. I think this is one of those like I think we said it last week. It's like they're gonna have some blunders. They just can't be against the Panthers. Like we just can't have them lose to the Panthers. That would be crushing. I don't think the Seahawks are a bad team. I think the Falcons played a bad game. And they've got a huge game coming up. So, hopefully they can get this done against Tampa Bay. That's going to be critical. But yeah,
we're going to see a lot what the team is made of next week because coming off a one-side defeat like this, and this is a battle tested roster. There's a lot of veterans. I know they have the young offensive stars, but you look at the defense, there's a lot of veterans there. So you got to get in the film room, make the necessary adjustments, and be prepared for really huge test because I think Tampa Bay is, I don't want to say one of the biggest surprises, but I didn't think Tampa Bay would be playing at this high of a level, particularly offensively.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about next Sunday. Like the expectation levels are still high, no doubt about it for this team. It's just it's not a huge setback, but it's a sizable setback where things definitely have to be addressed, and if they don't, this was kind of like the starting period because like this was going to be a critical 3-game stretch. Like Dallas is kind of in free fall, but Dallas still has the high-end talent that makes you wary of what they could be because high-end Dallas is still dangerous, especially if they get Parsons back. And we know how well Tampa Bay is playing, and Seattle's a threat as well. So like, it's next 3 games are really going to tell a lot. We're now in the next 2 games, so Lake time to get to work. And for the offense, it's pretty much kind of getting a better understanding of like, okay, this is what happens when Kirk Cousins gets rattled a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a game of Kirk Cousins, his accuracy, other than the interception and the miss to McLeod. I didn't think his throws all that off. It's just the physical limitations. You got to be able to cope with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't have it all happen at the same time. So you got to get it done. But yeah, this is Lake's chance. Like, Jimmy Lake, you officially been challenged to find some solutions, some creative solutions, because you can't just keep running this same scheme out there and expect different results. You're gonna face some good offenses here before you get to the soft part, and the Falcons need to manage to stay. Like I think we said, like the Falcons are 500 going into the bye, then we're in good shape with the soft end of the season. But we're still up by 1. You bought yourself some wiggle room with that Eagles win, but you got to find a way to win some of these games. You can't just come out flat and let the defense fall apart. I think with all the veterans back there, like Jesse Bates and Simmons, and like you need to be leaning on your 3 stars on the back end, like in Terrell and Bates and Simmons. Like Simmons needs to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage so he has a chance to rob some of these picks. That's what he started doing really, really well in Denver. He's not the rangiest guy. Like he used to be more rangy. Now I think he's fine. Like he's a perfectly fine cover 2 safety, but it's like you should probably play him a little closer to the line of scrimmage nowadays if you want to maximize what he can give you.
He did make a nice 3rd down stop where they threw on the deep post to Metcalf, and he kind of took Metcalf out of bounds where he knew he couldn't make a play on the ball. So it's just let me make sure Metcalf cannot get both feet in bounds. So just those veteran savvy plays that he's really good at doing it. But him being more in the box could be beneficial. It also could help the run game as well. So just gotta try to find max ways to use these safeties because you added these veterans with such great skill sets, great resumes. Now let's utilize them. So I feel like whenever the Falcons lose, the pressure is really on a coordinator. Zach Robinson took the significant heat the first 4 weeks. Now Jimmy Lake is feeling the heat.
Yep. Yep. And Zach Robinson responded really well. So I hope, this is a tight knit coaching staff. I hope that they can pull together and do make the necessary changes. Because obviously we all want these guys to be successful. So let's go get it done. Let's this is that game. This is the game that I think every young like emerging team needs to have at this point of the year, where it's like, okay, like we can't just like coast. Like this is like a big, like I think this team was starting to get a little ahead of themselves after the last 3 games. And I think this is a little punch in the mouth, and you got to wipe it off, go back to the film room, figure out what went wrong. This is not a bury the ball game. Like some people were like, oh, it's okay, we can just bury. No, you need to look at what happened on the defensive side of the ball and fix it. On offense, the offense can probably bury this ball. Like statistically, Cousins, just calm down, buddy. Just relax. But other than that, I think the offense was fine. The defense needs to have a hard look at what they're doing and probably make some significant schematic adjustments. They're not all going to come immediately. It's probably going to have to be gradual, but I don't think they can run this the way they kind of hope they would be able to, based on what we've seen through 7 games. But yeah, Alan, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think this is one of those games you just got to move forward from. I think we did our best when it came to analyzing it, and we're going to watch tomorrow night. Also, Monday night matchup. Monday night games, they've been pretty interesting this year. So I'm glad. And the Falcons have contributed to those interesting Monday night games. And hopefully in December they do not, and they beat the Raiders by 4 touchdowns. Time will tell with that. But nevertheless, it's another busy week for us, and we're very much looking forward to Tampa Bay for what's going to be a game for first place.
Yep. Critical matchup. NFC South on the line, where the Falcons could build a dominant lead over the Bucs with the tiebreaker as well. Looking forward to it. That's going to be one to watch for sure. But guys, thank you so much for joining us here on our Falcons vs. Seahawks Week 7 postgame show. He's Alan Strk at Alan Strk on the Twitters. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcon Kevin. Please like and subscribe to the show. We really appreciate that. If you got comments, leave those afterwards, and we will try to get to as many as we can on the YouTubes. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can check us out on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic On YouTube, we got the channel memberships rocking if you want to join up there, if you're more of a video enjoyer. Check out thefalcoholic.com for all that tremendous written content. Alan and I post on there. We got Dave, and I think as of yesterday, the Falcoholic turned 18 years old. So we're finally legal. So many good memes. Thank you guys for those. But it's wonderful to be a part of this. I think I've been here for 8, maybe how many years now? 8 years now, roughly. So it's been a blast. Alan, I think you've been there even longer.
Yes, although I was away for a bit. So I'm about 8 years, but I started in January 2015.
Okay, well, close enough. Close enough. But good times. We got a lot of season left. They were gonna have some blunders, guys. If you thought they were winning out the rest of the way, I don't believe you, because I know you've all watched this team. So I don't think anyone was actually thinking that. So I don't know who I'm talking to with that one, but on the off chance you were, please readjust your expectations. But I think this team still has a lot of room to grow. Personnel wise, we're kind of limited now. We'll see the outcome of these injuries, and that's going to be a big storyline this week. But got to get this dub. I think this is one of the most important games on the schedule. So we will hope for the best. We will hope they can bounce back and make the necessary changes to get this done. But until next time, guys, I'm Kevin. He's Alan. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your football.